heartbroken. The verdict of Margaret Aspinall today as another criminal case ended without conviction.
What a very sad day today is for the justice system of this country. What chance has any single person got when 96 people can be unlawfully killed and no one can be held to account? We all should be ashamed of ourselves for allowing that to happen.
Ms Aspinall's 18-year-old son James was one of the 96, the Liverpool fans who died in the crush at the FA Cup semi-final in Sheffield 32 years ago. 3 men have been on trial for perverting the course of justice. From the left, retired police officers Donald Denton and Alan Foster, along with former solicitor Peter Metcalfe. They are accused of trying to minimise the blame placed on South Yorkshire Police in the aftermath of the disaster by altering statements they'd prepared for the public inquiry in 1990.
But today, some of the families of the 96 listened in dismay as the judge declared that the defendants had no case to answer. Justice William Davis said that they had given statements to a public inquiry, not a statutory inquiry. In other words, it hadn't been a court of law, and so justice couldn't have been perverted. The collapse of this trial means that nobody has ever been criminally convicted over Hillsborough.
The CPS defended their decision to bring this case, but the barrister for one of the defendants, Donald Denton, told me that the trial had been a waste of public resources.
The truth is there never was a Hillsborough cover-up. There never was evidence of a Hillsborough cover-up. And the persecution of elderly men for just doing their jobs over 30 years ago does no favours to the Hillsborough families.
But you understand why the families will be incredibly upset at the thought of you saying that they were just doing their jobs.
I have absolutely huge sympathy for the families and the grief that they must still be suffering to this day. But the truth is that justice is not about going after people with no evidence. It's about finding the truth.
And the families have fought for that truth for over 3 decades. In 2016, they celebrated when inquest verdicts found that the 96 had been unlawfully killed. They hoped accountability would follow. Today, they said that hope had been crushed.
We've seen how the scales of justice are weighed against ordinary people. And that is what has happened here. That is the story of Hillsborough. These families have fought against impossible odds, and they established the truth in 2016. But sadly, the establishment of this country has sought to undermine that truth.
4 trials, 2 sets of inquests, a public inquiry and numerous investigations. But today, only disappointment and distress for those who've tried so desperately to get criminal justice for the 96. Darshna Soni, Channel 4 News, Liverpool.
Well, earlier I spoke with Charlotte Hennessy, whose father, Jimmy, was killed in the disaster, and I began by asking her how she feels about today's acquittal.
In a word, I was devastated.
Families like your own have been campaigning now for justice for 32 years. And apart from a fine for a health and safety officer, no single individual has been held responsible. Is it impossible now that that will happen in the future?
I think it's been made perfectly clear by the CPS that there is no way forward now. We were told that we couldn't appeal David Duckenfield's verdict. We've now been told that we cannot appeal this verdict either. And so it's certainly, you know, the end of the road. And I just think it can't be forgotten that family members have fought so tirelessly for 32 years, even when I was too young to do so. And the strength and the determination that they have shown, but also the fact that survivors, despite their own trauma, have always told the truth and they were vindicated. That cannot be forgotten.
What is the impact of all those years and today's acquittal on you personally?
It's had a huge impact on my mental health, which I don't think I will ever truly recover from. You know, it has a huge impact on my children as well. And that, for me, it sometimes feels more devastating that they're having to live through this now.
So is this today the end of the Justice for the 96 campaign that you have been so central to?
I think that we got truth at the inquests. but there has been no justice, and there is no accountability.
And does today's ruling stop you in a way getting that kind of sense of closure that perhaps you were looking for?
Yeah, it definitely does. You know, there's no doubt about that. This was always about, the deaths of our loved ones, and, they were unlawfully killed at a grossly negligent level. And yet nobody will ever be held accountable for that. And that is just so devastating.
How would you like to remember your father, Jimmy?
I'd like to remember my dad for the good man that he was. He was in the place that he should be, at the time that he should be. He didn't do anything wrong.
So when you hear the lawyer for one of the men acquitted today saying that the behaviour of Liverpool supporters was, and I quote, appalling, they were causing a riot, that appears to contradict the findings of the 2016 inquest. I just wonder what your response is to that.
The Liverpool fans were vindicated at the inquest. They were not to blame. And the Hillsborough disaster was no cause of any riot, any ticketless fans, any drunk fans. The Liverpool fans are not to blame.
Charlotte Hennessy, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.